Lynn never imagined that love would lead her to a remote village in Uganda, where her Korean cooking skills meant nothing, and her new family wanted her gone. Armed with only a worn axe and her determination, she ventured into forests that whispered ancient secrets, carrying firewood on her back like the weight of two worlds trying to crush her spirit. But what they didn't know was that this soul girl had survived worse than their rejection, and she was about to change everything. If you love stories about resilience, cross-cultural journeys, and unexpected triumphs, subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, and share this story with someone who needs inspiration today. Now, let's dive into Lynn's incredible journey. The story begins. The red dust of Kampala's outskirts clung to Lynn's sneakers as she stepped off the matatu, her hands trembling around the straps of her backpack. 7,000 miles from Seoul, and she'd never felt more alone, except for the warm hand of Oliver clasping hers. "They'll love you," Oliver said, his dark eyes crinkling with the smile that had made her say yes to everything. Yes to dating, yes to marriage, yes to leaving her marketing job in Gangnam to follow him back to his village after his father's sudden passing. "My mother, Sophia. She's tough, but fair. My sisters, Charlotte and Ava. They're excited to meet you." Lynn wanted to believe him. She'd spent 6 months learning basic Luganda phrases, practicing how to rap a gomesi properly, watching YouTube videos about Ugandan culture until 3 a.m. But nothing had prepared her for the weight of the stairs as Oliver's cousin James drove them deeper into the countryside, where paved roads became red clay paths, and the cellular signal disappeared like her confidence. The family compound appeared as the sun began its descent, a cluster of brick houses with corrugated iron roofs, arranged in a semicircle around a central courtyard, where chickens pecked at the ground. Children stopped their play to watch the vehicle approach. Women paused their washing. Even the goats seemed to turn their heads in judgment. "Ollie's back," a young voice shouted, and suddenly the courtyard erupted with activity. Lynn smoothed down her hanbok-inspired dress, a compromise between Korean and what she hoped was appropriately modest African fashion, and stepped out of the vehicle. She'd rehearsed her greeting 100 times. "In Kulamusiza, Mama, Erinya Lionge ne Lin." But the words died in her throat when she saw Sophia. Oliver's mother stood in the doorway of the main house, a formidable woman with silver-streaked hair wrapped in a colorful kitenge, her arms crossed over her ample bosom. Her expression could have frozen the equatorial sun. "So," Sophia said in English, her gaze traveling from Lynn's face to her feet and back again with unmistakable disapproval. "This is the woman who has bewitched my son into forgetting his responsibilities." "Mama, please," Oliver started, but Sophia raised one hand, silencing him. A man loses his father, and instead of returning home immediately to lead his family, he stays overseas for another 6 months. Her eyes, hard as ironstone, fixed on Lynn. "I wonder what kind of woman would keep a son from his duties." Lynn felt heat rising in her cheeks, but she maintained her composure, bowing slightly. "Oliver has told me so much about Charlotte, Ava," Sophia called over her shoulder. "Come meet your brother's wife." The way she pronounced wife made it sound like an accusation. 2 women emerged from the house. Charlotte, the eldest sister, tall and willowy with suspicious eyes, and Ava, younger, rounder, with a slightly softer expression that gave Lynn a sliver of hope. "Welcome," Ava said, though her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Charlotte simply looked Lynn up and down, and said nothing. "You'll stay in the guest house," Sophia announced, pointing to the smallest structure on the compound's edge. "Benjamin will show you. Dinner is at 7. We eat as a family here." As James helped them with their luggage, Oliver whispered apologies, but Lynn shook her head. She'd expected this, hadn't she? The protective mother, the skeptical siblings. She just needed to show them who she really was. How hard could it be? The guest house was sparse. A concrete floor, a wooden bed frame with a thin mattress, a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. Through the small window, Lynn could see the main house where Oliver's family had already gathered, their voices carrying across the courtyard in rapid Luganda. "What are they saying?" Lynn asked. Oliver's jaw tightened. "It doesn't matter. Give them time." But it did matter. Lynn understood enough from his expression. They were talking about her, questioning her, judging her before she'd even had a chance to prove herself. At 7 o'clock sharp, they joined the family at a long wooden table in the main house's courtyard. Kerosene lamps cast dancing shadows across the faces gathered there. Not just Sophia, Charlotte, and Ava, but also James, Benjamin, Oliver's youngest brother, a serious-faced young man studying engineering at Makerere University, and Olivia, the eldest sister who'd arrived with her 3 children. The table groaned under the weight of food: matoke, groundnut sauce, steamed cassava, beans, grilled tilapia, and something Lynn didn't recognize, but that smelled wonderfully spicy. "Lynn," Sophia said, her voice cutting through the chatter, "tell us about your family, your people. What does your father do?" Lynn straightened in her seat. "My father passed away when I was 12. My mother raised me and my younger brother alone. She owned a small restaurant in Hongdae, that's a neighborhood in Seoul. She worked very hard to send us both to university." "So, you know how to cook?" Ava asked, leaning forward with what seemed like genuine interest. "Well, I make excellent kimchi jjigae, that's kimchi stew, and bulgogi, bibimbap, japchae." Lynn trailed off as she noticed the blank stares around the table. "Korean dishes. I grew up in my mother's restaurant, so I learned." "Korean dishes," Sophia repeated, her tone flat. "And African food? Can you cook what we eat here?" Lynn hesitated. I'm learning. I've been watching videos, and Oliver has taught me a few." Charlotte laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Videos? She's learned from videos, everyone. Our brother brings home a woman who can't even cook our food." "That's not fair," Oliver protested. "Lynn is incredibly talented. She's a skilled cook, and she can learn." "Learn?" Olivia spoke for the first time, her voice weary. "Brother, do you understand what you've done? Father just died. The family business needs strong leadership. The coffee plantation needs decisions made daily. And you bring home a foreign wife who can't cook our food, who doesn't know our ways, who will need everything explained like a child?" "She's not a child," Oliver's voice rose. "She's my wife, and you will treat her with respect." The table fell silent. Even the children stopped eating to stare. Sophia set down her fork with deliberate slowness. "Oliver, my son, you are your father's heir. You have responsibilities now, to this family, to the workers on our land, to the memory of your father. We need you here, focused, not distracted by—" She waved her hand vaguely in Lynn's direction. "Cultural adjustments." Lynn's appetite vanished. She pushed her food around her plate, fighting back tears, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. That night, lying on the thin mattress while Oliver paced the small room, Lynn made a decision. She wouldn't beg. She would earn their respect, no matter what it took. She just didn't know yet how high the price would be. Dawn broke, with roosters crowing and the sound of women's voices already busy in the courtyard. Lynn woke to find Oliver's side of the bed empty. He'd risen early to meet with the plantation manager, leaving a note: "Back by noon. Stay strong. I love you." Lynn dressed quickly in jeans and a simple t-shirt, tied her hair back, and ventured out to find breakfast. The main house kitchen was already full of activity. Charlotte and Ava worked alongside 2 other women Lynn hadn't met yet, preparing what looked like tea and pasho. "Good morning," Lynn said brightly, determined to start fresh. Charlotte glanced up, then returned to her stirring. "There's tea in the pot. Cups are on that shelf." Lynn poured herself a cup, trying to ignore the awkward silence that had fallen. "Can I help with anything?" "Do you know how to make pasho?" Ava asked, not unkindly. "No, but I could learn." "Better not," Charlotte cut in. "You'll waste the maize flour. We're not made of money here, you know." The words stung, but Lynn kept her composure. She took her tea and retreated to the guest house, where she spent the next hour unpacking and trying to plan her next move. Through the window, she watched the compound come alive. Children heading to school, men departing for the fields, women gathering water from the borehole. Around mid-morning, Sophia appeared at her door. "Come," she said simply, turning away, without waiting for a response. Lynn followed her to a shed behind the main house, where Sophia pulled out a worn panga, a long, slightly curved blade attached to a wooden handle, and thrust it toward Lynn. "What's this for?" Lynn asked, though dread was already pooling in her stomach. "Firewood," Sophia said. "We need it for cooking. Every woman in this family contributes, even foreign ones who can't cook our food. Benjamin will show you where to go." Benjamin appeared from around the corner, looking uncomfortable. He was perhaps 23, with Oliver's kind eyes but none of his assertiveness. "This way," he mumbled, grabbing his own panga. They walked in silence, past the compound boundaries, past cultivated fields, into the bush where the vegetation grew thick and wild. The morning sun climbed higher, and soon Lynn's shirt was soaked with sweat. "Here," Benjamin finally said, stopping at a grove of trees. "Dead branches, fallen trees, that's what you want. Don't cut living trees, Mama will know." He demonstrated how to identify good firewood, how to swing the panga effectively, how to bundle the wood with rope. Lynn watched carefully, committing every detail to memory. "Why is she making me do this?" Lynn asked quietly. Benjamin wouldn't meet her eyes. It's how things are done here. Everyone works. Everyone contributes. But Oliver said you have workers on the plantation. You have money to hire." "It's not about money." Benjamin's voice was barely above a whisper. "It's about proving yourself, showing you're willing to do what needs to be done, the way we do it here." Understanding dawned, cold and clear. This was a test, an initiation, or perhaps a punishment designed to make her leave. Lynn gripped the panga tighter. "Then I'd better get started." For the next 3 hours, Lynn chopped firewood under the climbing sun. Her hands, accustomed to computer keyboards and kitchen knives, developed blisters within the first 30 minutes. Her back ached from bending. Thorns tore at her arms. Sweat stung her eyes. But she didn't stop. Benjamin worked alongside her, saying little, but occasionally correcting her technique. When her bundle was finally large enough, he showed her how to secure it with rope and lift it onto her back. The weight nearly drove her to her knees. "I can't," she gasped. "You can," Benjamin said firmly, steadying her. "Lean forward. Let your back and legs carry it, not your arms. That's it. Now walk." The journey back to the compound felt 10 times longer than the journey out. Every step was agony. The rope cut into her shoulders. The wood shifted and scraped against her neck. Her legs trembled with exhaustion. But she made it. The women in the courtyard stopped their work to watch as Lynn stumbled in, her face red and streaked with dirt, her hands bleeding, the firewood bundle nearly as large as she was. Sophia emerged from the kitchen, her expression unreadable. She walked around Lynn, examining the wood, checking the bundle's construction. "This is barely enough for one day," she said finally. "Tomorrow, you'll need to bring twice this amount." Lynn's heart sank, but she nodded. "Yes, Mama." That night, Oliver returned to find Lynn soaking her blistered hands in a basin of water, her shoulders and back covered in angry red marks from the rope. "What happened?" His voice was sharp with concern and anger. "Lin, what did they do to you?" "It's fine," Lin said. Her tears were finally sliding down her cheeks. I went to get firewood. Everyone contributes here, remember?" "Firewood? Mama sent you to fetch firewood? Like you're some kind of—" He stood abruptly, heading for the door. "This is ridiculous. We have workers. We have—" "Oliver, stop." Lin's voice was firm, despite her exhaustion. "This is their way of testing me. I understand that now. If you fight this battle for me, I'll never earn their respect. I have to do this myself." "You shouldn't have to prove anything to anyone." "But I do." Lin met his eyes. "Because I'm foreign. Because I took you away when your father died. Because I can't cook matoke or make posho. Because I'm different. So yes, I have to prove myself. And I will." Oliver knelt beside her, taking her damaged hands gently in his. "You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for." "I learned from my mother," Lin said softly. "She used to say that resilience isn't about never falling down. It's about getting up one more time than you fall." For the next week, Lin rose before dawn to collect firewood. Her hands developed calluses over the blisters. Her back grew stronger. She learned to identify the best dead wood, to swing the panga more efficiently, to balance the loads better. But she also noticed something else. The compound had no running water in the houses. Women walked to the borehole multiple times daily, carrying jerry cans on their heads. Food was cooked on open fires, smoky and inefficient, blackening the pots and the walls of the outdoor kitchen. Laundry was done by hand, a laborious process that took hours. One evening, after delivering her firewood, Lin found Ava struggling with a particularly stubborn stain on one of her children's shirts, scrubbing until her knuckles were raw. "In Korea," Lin said carefully, "my mother had a trick for grass stains. You make a paste with baking soda and white vinegar, let it sit for 20 minutes, then wash." Ava looked up, surprised. "We don't have those things here." "What about wood ash and lemon juice? Would that work similarly?" Ava's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Maybe. We have both of those." They tried it together, and the stain lifted far more easily than before. Ava's expression softened slightly. "That's actually helpful. Thank you." It was a small victory, but it gave Lin an idea. Charlotte and Olivia remained cold, and Sophia's tests continued, sending Lin to fetch water, to help with the endless task of shelling groundnuts, to work in the cassava fields under the blistering sun. But Lin noticed inefficiencies everywhere, traditional methods that created unnecessary hardship. And she began to wonder, what if she could help? Not by trying to be like them, but by bridging the gap between their world and hers. One afternoon, while collecting firewood with Benjamin, Lin asked, "Why doesn't the family use solar panels? The sun here is incredible. You could have electricity for lights, maybe a refrigerator." Benjamin shrugged. "Too expensive. Mama says such things are for city people, not for us. But in the long run, you'd save money. No kerosene, less firewood needed." Lin's mind was already calculating, planning. Benjamin gave her a curious look. "You think about things differently. Most people would just accept how things are. Most people aren't trying to survive their mother-in-law's firewood torture program," Lin said, wryly. And Benjamin laughed, the first genuine laugh she'd heard from any family member. That evening, Lin made a decision. She would cook dinner, not African food, but Korean food, and she would invite everyone to try it. When she proposed the idea to Oliver, he looked skeptical. "Are you sure? After everything they've put you through, you want to cook for them?" "I want to show them who I am," Lin said, "not as someone trying to become like them, but as myself. Maybe that's been the problem all along. I've been trying to fit into their mold, instead of showing them what I can bring to this family." Mama will never agree. Then I won't ask permission. I'll just do it. The next day, Lin made the 3-hour journey to Kampala with Benjamin as her reluctant guide. She'd saved a little money from her last job in Seoul, and she was about to spend a significant portion of it. At Nakasero Market, she purchased ingredients: gochujang, Korean red pepper paste; doenjang, fermented soybean paste; sesame oil; rice wine vinegar. She found a shop selling Korean goods, run by a surprised Korean woman who couldn't believe someone from Seoul had ended up in a Ugandan village. "You're brave," the woman, Mrs. Kim, said in Korean. "Or crazy. Maybe both." "Definitely both," Lin agreed, laughing. She also bought supplies from a solar equipment shop. Not panels, which were indeed expensive, but solar-powered lights, a small solar phone charger, and information pamphlets. Back at the compound, she set up in the outdoor kitchen while everyone was away, working with the resources available. No rice cooker, no electric stove, just open fire, clay pots, and determination. She made kimchi fried rice, using local vegetables and the kimchi she'd brought from Korea. She grilled chicken, marinated in a gochujang sauce, adapted to local tastes. She prepared a modified bibimbap with ingredients she'd found in the market: pumpkin leaves instead of spinach, fresh avocado, local mushrooms. She even made a simple Korean soup with vegetables and egg. As the sun set and the family began returning to the compound, the unusual aromas drew them like magnets. Charlotte emerged from the main house first, her nose wrinkling. "What is that smell?" "Dinner," Lin said simply, continuing to plate the food on the large communal dishes she'd found in the kitchen. Sophia appeared, her face darkening. "I did not give you permission to use my kitchen. And what is this food? It looks strange." "It smells strange." "It's Korean food," Lin said, standing straight despite her racing heart. "I've been here 2 weeks, doing everything you've asked, chopping firewood, fetching water, working in the fields. But you still don't know me. You don't know what I can offer this family. So tonight, I'm showing you. I'm not asking for permission. I'm asking for a chance." The silence stretched. Oliver appeared from the direction of the fields, James and Benjamin behind him, all stopping short at the scene before them. "You have no right," Charlotte began, but Sophia raised her hand. "Everyone sit," Sophia commanded. "We will taste this Korean food." The family gathered slowly, suspiciously around the table. Lin served each person, her hands steady now, despite her nervousness. "This is kimchi fried rice," she explained. "The spice might be strong for those not used to it. This is marinated chicken. The sauce is made from fermented peppers. This bowl has vegetables and rice, mixed together. And this is soup." Ava was the first to try a small bite of the fried rice. Her eyes widened. It's actually good. Spicy, but good." Benjamin tried the chicken and nodded appreciatively. Even James, who'd been mostly silent throughout Lin's time there, took several bites before saying, "The flavors are different, but interesting." Sophia ate slowly, methodically, her face revealing nothing. Charlotte picked at her food with clear skepticism, while Olivia fed small bites to her children, who seemed to enjoy it more than their mother expected. Finally, Sophia set down her spoon. "This food is strange to us," she said. "It uses flavors we don't know. But," she paused, and for the first time something like grudging respect flickered in her eyes. "It is not bad. You can cook. Just not our food." "Yet," Lin said softly. "I can't cook your food yet. But I will learn. If you'll teach me." Charlotte scoffed. "Why should we teach you? So you can make bad matuke and waste our food?" Lin turned to face Oliver's eldest sister directly. "Because I'm not going anywhere, Charlotte. I know you think I'm weak, that I don't belong here, that I'll run back to Seoul the first chance I get. But I won't. This is my home now. This is my family. and I will learn everything I need to learn to be a good daughter, a good sister, a good wife here. But I can also teach you things. Share things from my world that might make life easier, better. She pulled out the solar lights she'd bought. Like these. They charge during the day, give light at night. No kerosene needed. No fire danger. She demonstrated, and the bright, steady light made several people gasp. Or, Lin continued, warming to her subject, I noticed how long it takes to cook dried beans. In Korea, we have a method of soaking and pre-cooking that cuts the time in half. I know how to preserve vegetables so they last longer. I know efficiency techniques for water collection and purification. City tricks, Sophia said dismissively, but Lin could see interest in her eyes. Practical knowledge, Lin corrected gently. My mother ran a small restaurant with tiny margins. She had to be efficient with everything, time, money, ingredients. She taught me that there's always a better way to do things, if you're willing to look for it and learn. Ava leaned forward. Could you really teach us these things? If you'll teach me your ways, yes, we can learn from each other. Olivia spoke up, surprising everyone. When you were in the cassava field yesterday, I watched you. You organized the harvested roots by size without being told. You found a rhythm to the work that made it faster. I thought you were just trying to finish quickly to avoid work. But you were making it efficient. In my mother's restaurant, everything was about workflow. How to move, how to organize, how to minimize wasted effort. These principles apply everywhere. Fancy words, Charlotte muttered. But she'd eaten all her food, Lin noticed. Benjamin cleared his throat. Mama, remember when Tata wanted to bring that agricultural consultant from the university? To improve the coffee yields? You said we should learn from those with knowledge, even if they're not from here. Sophia's jaw tightened, but she nodded slowly. I remember. Lin has knowledge too, Benjamin continued. Different knowledge, but valuable. She's family now, Oliver added, reaching for Lin's hand. Whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not. The question is, will you waste the resources she brings, or will you use them? The night insects chirped loudly in the silence that followed. Somewhere, a goat bleated. A child yawned. Tomorrow, she said, Lin will come to the kitchen at dawn. I will teach her to make proper posho, and she will not complain about the heat or the work. Lin's heart leaped. Yes, Mama. And, Sophia continued, her tone grudging, perhaps she can show Ava and Charlotte this vegetable preservation technique she speaks of. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was a door, cracked open just enough to let in light. That night as Lin and Oliver lay in their small room, she whispered, I think I'm going to make it. I never doubted you, Oliver lied, and they both laughed. The next morning, Lin rose before dawn and presented herself at the kitchen. Sophia was already there, a huge pot of water heating over the fire. Making posho is simple, Sophia said, but easy to ruin. You must add the maize flour slowly, stirring constantly. The consistency must be perfect. Too thin, it's porridge. Too thick, it's a brick. For 2 hours, Lin stirred and added flour under Sophia's critical eye, her arms burning, sweat dripping into the pot, despite the early hour. More flour. Stir faster. No, not like that. Firmer. You're too gentle with it. Treat it like an enemy you're subduing, not a friend you're caressing. Finally, when Lin's arms felt ready to fall off, Sophia nodded. Acceptable. Not good, but acceptable. Tomorrow, you'll do better. It was the closest thing to praise Lin had received, and she treasured it. Over the following weeks, a tentative rhythm developed. Lin learned to make matuke, to pound ground nuts for sauce, to identify which cassava plants were ready for harvest. Her hands, already calloused from firewood duty, became skilled at tasks she'd never imagined doing. In exchange, she taught Ava her mother's preservation techniques for vegetables. She showed Charlotte how to organize the outdoor kitchen for better workflow, reducing time spent cooking by nearly a third. She worked with Benjamin to create a simple solar water heating system using black pipes and panels he could build from local materials. The changes were small, but accumulating. Olivia started using Lynn's method for removing tough stains. James appreciated the solar lights that let him study late without wasting kerosene. Even Charlotte, the most resistant, grudgingly admitted that the kitchen reorganization made her work easier. But Sophia remained the ultimate judge, and she was not easily impressed. One afternoon, about 6 weeks into Lynn's stay, a crisis emerged. The old coffee roasting facility on the plantation, a structure Lynn had never seen, caught fire. No one was hurt, but the damage was extensive. Oliver, James, and the workers managed to save most of the equipment, but the building itself was unsalvageable. Worse, the traditional roasting method had been inefficient, producing inconsistent quality that affected their prices. That evening, as the family sat discussing the disaster, Lynn listened quietly. Finally, she spoke. In Korea, coffee has become very popular in the last 20 years. I have a friend who opened a specialty roasting cafe. She studied techniques from all over the world: Africa, South America, Indonesia. What if we rebuilt not just the old facility, but something better, more efficient, producing higher quality beans that could command better prices? Charlotte rolled her eyes. And where would we get money for this miracle facility? We start small, Lynn said, pulling out her phone. She'd charged it at Benjamin's University when they'd gone to Kampala last week. Look, I've been researching. There are grants available for agricultural improvement, especially for women-led businesses. Sophia could apply. I'm not a beggar, Sophia snapped. It's not begging. It's accessing resources intended for exactly this purpose. And Lynn hesitated, then plunged ahead. I have some savings. Not much, but enough to start. We could combine it with a small bank loan, these grants, and maybe sell some of the coffee through my connections in Korea. Korean customers pay premium prices for quality African coffee. The family stared at her. You would invest your own money? Olivia asked slowly. In our business? In our family business, Lynn corrected. This is my family now, too. Remember, the transformation didn't happen overnight. It took 3 months of planning, paperwork, grant applications, and late nights with Benjamin drawing up designs for a better facility. Lynn reached out to her connections in Seoul, her friend with the cafe, her former colleagues, even Mrs. Kim from the market, who knew other Korean business owners in East Africa. She created a presentation showing the quality of their coffee, the family's history, the potential for partnership. Meanwhile, she continued learning. She mastered matoke, finally earning a nod of genuine approval from Sophia. She learned to weave baskets from banana fibers alongside Ava. She even helped Charlotte organize a savings group among the village women, applying principles she'd learned in her marketing courses. The breakthrough came when Charlotte's savings group proved so successful that women from neighboring villages wanted to join. Charlotte, despite herself, was impressed. You made me look good, she told Lynn one evening, her tone still suspicious, but softer. You made yourself look good, Lynn replied. I just shared an idea. You made it work. When the grant approval came through, combined with Lynn's savings, a loan arranged through Oliver's connections, and an advance from Korean buyers interested in their coffee, Sophia called a family meeting. We are going to rebuild, she announced, but not the old way. We will build something new, something better. Lynn has brought us opportunities we didn't see before, and perhaps, she paused, looking directly at Lynn for the first time with something approaching warmth. Perhaps having different perspectives in this family is not such a terrible thing. Lynn felt tears prick her eyes, but maintained composure. However, Sophia continued, her tone stern, this does not mean we abandon our ways completely. We will blend old and new, traditional and modern. Lynn has learned our methods. We will learn hers. This is how families grow stronger. The new coffee roasting facility opened 6 months later, a beautiful blend of traditional and modern design. Benjamin had incorporated solar panels, proper ventilation, and efficient equipment. while Sophia insisted on maintaining the traditional shade-growing methods and hand-picking that made their coffee special. The first batch sold to Korean buyers at prices 30% higher than they'd ever received. The second batch did even better. On the day the first payment arrived, Sophia called Lin to the main house. She held out a small package wrapped in cloth. "This was going to be for Oliver's wife," she said gruffly. "I was saving it for when he married someone appropriate. Someone from here, who knew our ways." She paused. "But you are his wife, and perhaps you are also appropriate, just in ways I didn't expect." Lin unwrapped the package with trembling hands. Inside was a beautiful kitenge cloth in vibrant oranges and reds, and a simple but elegant necklace of amber beads. "These belong to my mother," Sophia said. "Now they belong to you. You have earned your place in this family, Lin. Not because you learned to make posho or fetch firewood, though you did those things well, but because you stayed, you fought, you shared your gifts while honoring ours. That is what family does." Lin couldn't stop the tears this time. "Thank you, Mama." Sophia pulled her into an embrace, the first time she'd hugged Lin since her arrival. "Welcome home, daughter." That evening, the family gathered for dinner, a meal that featured both matoke and Lin's kimchi fried rice, traditional groundnut sauce, and Korean-style grilled vegetables. Charlotte no longer rolled her eyes at Lin's contributions. Ava chatted excitedly about visiting Seoul someday. Benjamin showed off the new irrigation system he'd designed, using principles Lin had shared about water conservation. Even Olivia, who'd been coolest to Lin after Sophia, smiled and said, "My children ask for your Korean soup now more than my own." "I think I need you to teach me your recipe so I can make it when you're not here." "When I'm not here?" Lin asked. "When you visit Seoul, silly. You didn't think Mama would let you leave forever, did you? You're family now. Family always comes back." Oliver squeezed Lin's hand under the table, his eyes shining with pride and love. As the sun set over the compound, now featuring solar lights that Benjamin and Lin had installed, efficient water systems, and a thriving coffee business that supported not just their family, but several village families, Lin looked around at the faces that had once been so hostile and were now her own. She thought of her mother, who'd always said that strength came in many forms. The strength to bend without breaking. The strength to learn while teaching. The strength to honor tradition while embracing change. Lin had arrived in this village with only her love for Oliver and her willingness to try. She'd been tested by firewood and fires, by suspicious sisters and a formidable mother-in-law. But she'd persevered, not by becoming someone she wasn't, but by being fully herself while respecting who they were. And in the end, she hadn't just found acceptance, she'd found home. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or made you think about resilience, cultural bridges, and the power of persistence, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more incredible true life-inspired stories, and share this with anyone who needs to hear that different doesn't mean less. It just means different gifts to offer the world. What did you think of Lin's journey? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, strength isn't about never bending, it's about knowing when to bend and still be strong. It's about bending without breaking and rising stronger than before.